we are a part of the Democratic Party. We love supporting Kamala Harris for president. And our state president is Freed. The person who runs Hillsborough County is a Black woman. Her name is Vanessa Lester. We do encourage you to go to our Hillsborough County Democratic meetings, which are the second Monday, it's the third Monday. If you want to put that reoccurrence on your calendar, it's the third Monday at 6 o'clock. And you can go to Hillsborough County Democrats to keep in touch with them. Our meetings here are always the Thursday at 6 o'clock. We plan to be here until the rest of the year, including our Christmas party, which is going to be the second Thursday of December, right here in this room. Now, we had a standing room only event here when we had our our forum for the District 5 City of Tampa race. And we had 3 network television stations here, including Telemundo, ABC, and NBC News. So obviously people are really, really excited about this race. And guess what? We are still in the race. There's a runoff because no one in the race got more than 50%. So that means we have a runoff between the top 2, which are Nia Young and Bishop Thomas Scott, which is going to be on the 28th day of this month, October. So next week, always the 3rd Saturday of every month, we have our phone banks. And that is to get out the Black vote. Now, this particular Saturday, we're going to focus on people who live in District 5. But every time we call our voters, we have to remind them that the governor of Florida has canceled all the vote by mail ballot requests. Someone said to me, oh, I don't really like vote by mail. I don't trust it. Well, if the governor thought it didn't work, then he wouldn't be trying to stop you from voting by mail. Voting by mail works. It wins elections. President Obama taught us that we want those votes in the bank. You know how many well-intentioned voters just never get into the polls because something came up? They had to spend a few days in the hospital. Someone in their family got sick. The car broke down. Anything can happen to prevent a voter. We have people who are infirmed, the elderly, they can't get to the polls. People don't drive, all those things. Those are the people they're after because they think they're all Democrats. Whether they are or not, they're trying to prevent those people from voting. Somehow, all of the Republicans find a way to get to the polls. I don't know why that is. We also are working with a group called Magnify Voices, and they are setting up canvases. We're not that great at canvassing yet, but we're going to work on it. But in the meantime, if knocking on doors is something you want to do, then we're going to set you up with Magnify Voices. They've adopted a couple of precincts in District 5, and they're working on getting out the Black vote. Now, also today, we have a gentleman on the line from Equal Ground, which is a nonpartisan group, and they're working to get out the Black vote as well. Is Equal Ground on the line right now?
Yes, we are.
Mr. Simon?
Yes. How are you
doing?
I know
that you said, oh yeah, he's muted.
Can you hear me?
Can one of those work?
Let's try. Yeah, but he's not.
Hello, can y'all hear me?
Can you hear him? Okay, good. Okay, so I'd like to introduce you to one of the field managers from Equal Ground. He said he wanted just a few minutes at our meeting. So go ahead, Mr. Simon. You know what? You're muted again for some. Oh, now you're on.
You can hear me?
Now I can.
Awesome. Yes, my name is Simon Adams. I am the field manager for Central to South Florida here at Equal Ground. Really excited to be here today at the Hillsborough Democratic Black Caucus. I am located in Orange County, so I'm part of the Orange County Democratic Black Caucus, and just really excited we can join forces.
Orlando, Florida.
Yes, absolutely. Really excited to just bridge the gap between the I-4 corridor all the way down to South Florida. Again, we are nonpartisan, but we are Black led within our organization. So we've been around for about 6 years, really leading voting rights organizations and all the way through litigation as well. So reason why I'm talking to you today, not only about getting out the Black vote, but showing up and presenting our Black political power and Black political presence at our legislative delegation meetings. So we are going across the state trying to recruit individuals to talk to the legislators at these legislative delegation meetings before legislative session starts at the top of 2026, because they're heading up to Tallahassee and going to make some determinations about what happens locally and at the state level for the next 2 to 4 years minimally. So really want to make sure that we are present and share our voices, because if we are not at the table, we are probably on the menu. So want to make sure that we show up there. Specifically, what we're discussing is redistricting. For those of you that don't know, redistricting is the process of redrawing electoral district boundaries, determining how communities are represented in Congress, state legislators, and local governments. It happens about every 10 years, and it goes along with the census. A little history: in 2010, Florida voters passed the Fair District Amendments through a ballot initiative to safeguard this process and ensure equitable lines were drawn. In 2022, DeSantis vetoes these maps and called for a mid-decade redraw. The maps he enacted eliminated 2 Black congressional districts in districts 5 and 10, and flipped the legislature from being 13 Democrats and 14 Republicans to now 20 Republicans and 8 Democrats. These maps were determined by the Florida Supreme Court to dilute Black political power and were still allowed to pass. Now the governor and members of the legislature are looking to redraw new maps that can further gerrymander our communities out of a political voice. This is why we are showing up to our local legislative delegation meetings to talk to our legislators before they head up to Tallahassee for legislative session, as they need to take the Fair District Amendment and the will of the Floridians that passed it into consideration and say no to mid-decade redistricting and furthering already gerrymandered lines. I'm going to drop in the chat the Hillsborough Legislative Delegation meeting public comment sign up, and that deadline is this Saturday at 5 p.m. Really encourage everybody to show up. If possible, we need Black voices at these legislative delegation meetings. If your topic or a public comment isn't redistricting, we still need your voice. We just need our electorate heard, so that we can be seen in front of our legislatures,
So,
because they have been slim to none as a presence throughout the other legislative delegation meetings we've seen so far.
Simon, are you able to hear me?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so we have like 20 people in the room and
Yes.
they don't have access to the chat.
So what I can do is share it with you, and maybe you could share it on the follow-up email.
Or you could tell them
Yes.
verbally what you want them to do.
Okay. So the okay, so it's a long email. I mean, it's a long link to be able to sign up. I can.
Okay, so you know what? We're just gonna ask everyone to leave their email when they sign in. Ma'am, please sign in. And then we'll just share your information with them. And you're inviting people to actually go up to Tallahassee, right?
That's going to be the day at the Capitol. That'll be February 3rd and 4th. This is
Okay.
locally in Hillsborough at the Pepin Hospitality Center.
And what day?
October 21st from 10 to 2 p.m. From 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Okay, all right. We'll
And
try to.
the sign up deadline to be able to speak and give a public comment is this Saturday at 5 p.m. And you can find that link on the Hillsborough County delegation website. So type in Hillsborough County Legislative Delegation, and you will find the link to sign up to be able to give your public comment there.
All right, thank you for bringing that to our attention because we definitely want Black voices to be heard. And that's a very important issue.
Absolutely. I appreciate the time given for during the Black Caucus meeting. I know you have some good speakers coming up. Don't want to take too much time, but really appreciate all the effort being done, and keep up the great work, y'all.
Thank you. And for those of you who don't know, we've had like 2 black seats already drawn out by the governor, just gone. And one of them is Representative Lawson. He's walking around with no seat right now. So, yeah, this is a huge issue. Yeah, and along with voter suppression. So thank you. And you can go online and read more about Equal Ground, but it's a very important organization right here in the state of Florida. Did we have something from the officers? Do you have? Oh, and that's all, and that's your total report? Okay, so we'll do the reports after we have our speakers, but we are having the Kennedy King Gala coming up on next Saturday. Mr. McCauley is going to be joining us. Nathan, will you be a Kennedy King? Yeah, so Kennedy King is our biggest Hillsborough County party fundraiser. So if you want to be there, which is next Saturday, they gave me a drop dead deadline on Monday to get everybody in. So if that's something you want, it is $200 a person. It's pricey because it's a fundraiser, but there'll be some other activity, Democratic Party activities coming up. But if you want to go to a gala and get all dressed up and be formal, you can be with us at the Hilton on Saturday, next Saturday, okay? Yes. That's $200 per person. All right. Yes, ma'am. It's Saturday the 18th. Yes. So if you want to be there, let us know right away. Okay. Let's see. Did I miss anything? Officers, keep me in check. Did I miss anything that I need to do?
I think we can pick it up from the other side.
That's good. That's good. That's mostly what I wanted to say. So today I am so honored to have a man who has stepped forward to take the seat of Mr. Jay Collins, a really bad Republican who was now moved up to be lieutenant governor. So he may also run for governor, but he's a really, really bad Republican. He knocked Janet Cruz out of her seat. So it was Democratic. It was Democratic. And now we have a union man who's with IBEW, the electrical union. So I'm hoping he'll bring some union workers to vote for him. He's also going to talk to us today about apprenticeships in the union. The union needs people, right?
They always need good.
They need good men. So we want some Black guys to get in there. And women, we need some Black men and women. And you know who can pay the rent? People who have good jobs, good paying jobs. So please give a warm welcome to Mr. Brian Nathan. And they're gonna stand there so they can see you.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. My name is Brian Nathan. I am running for Senate District 14. That is Jay Collins' former seat, like Angela mentioned. Just so you're aware, if you don't know, Senate District 14 is roughly west of 275 to the Pinellas County line and north to the Pasco line and just north of the university area. That's roughly 500,000 residents. It's 500,000 residents right now that do not have any representation going into committee weeks and potentially going into the session. 500,000 people that don't have a state senator. Senator was sued over this lack of a special election starting last Monday. The ACLU filed a lawsuit against him in order to get this special election. Because I believe right now we're just at 51 days since August 12th that we haven't had any representation. To be clear, the governor has done this before. He's been sued, I believe, 4 times, and he's lost 4 times. We're not calling a special election. The most recent were those 2 seats in Orange County that were mentioned earlier. He was sued over both of those, and Democrats won those 2 seats running away. So once again, Democrats are stepping up where the governor isn't. But we're not here to talk about the governor. We're here to talk about Senate District 14. I am a Navy veteran. I served in the Navy for 6 years on the USS Carr and the USS Mason. I deployed 3 times as a cryptologist. I got out of the Navy, and my girlfriend at the time, now wife, Tanya, is from Florida and convinced me to move to Florida. She's from Orlando. My mother had moved to Melbourne, and we decided that Tampa was close to the beach where we wanted to be, but not too close, if you get what I'm saying. And we fell in love with Tampa. We decided to raise our kids here. I have 2 girls. Both are in public school. They're both in high school now, which is its own challenge. But in that time, I went to college. I went to the University of Tampa. I started grad school at USF with Will Tyson. He's sitting in the back. But I wanted to build something, so I ended up joining the IBEW. My father-in-law actually interested me in it. He was a member in Orlando over in 606. So I joined the apprenticeship. I did my 5 years in the apprenticeship program. I topped out. I became a journeyman wireman. And I worked all over the state, here locally in Hillsborough County, Polk County. I went down to Miami. I went to Eglin Air Force Base up in the Panhandle 6 times. And I got to see the fruits of my labor. At the end of the day, I could look back and say, I built that. I fixed that. I turned those lights on. And I got more satisfaction out of that than anything I've done previously. So a few years later, I had the opportunity to move into the office with the union. And now I'm an organizer. I share that same opportunity with other workers out in the community, bringing them into the union, either through apprenticeships. And I know Angela really wants me to talk about the apprenticeship program, and I'll get there in a minute. Or if they're experienced, they can test right in. They can become a journeyman if they meet the qualifications. And like Angela mentioned, we need everybody. Black, white, gay, straight, man, woman, it doesn't matter. If you can do the work, we want you. If you want to learn how to do the work, we have an apprenticeship program. It's a 4-year program and it's paid. What that means is you go to school 1 full day, 7 to 3:30 every other week. The rest of the time you're on the job site, putting into practice what you learn in the classroom. You're earning a paycheck. You have benefits, health insurance, paid for by the employer. You have a pension. Actually, you have 3 pensions. Does anybody else have a pension in here except for maybe Darren? Congratulations. You're one of the lucky few. So we have 3 pensions. We have a vacation fund. If you don't want to stay in Florida, you want to go up north, there's an opportunity to travel all over the country. I have former apprentices of mine sending me pictures of their paycheck stubs. $5,000 a month going into their pension. I sometimes question, why am I still here? Why am I not up in Kokomo, Indiana, making that kind of money? But my family's here, the work is here, the need is here. We need someone who can actually fight for our communities. Because right now we have a legislature that does the bidding of the governor. In particular, what troubles me is what I see happening in our schools, particularly around book bannings. And I know that's a issue near and dear to everybody here. If you have kids, you want them to have the full access to all the information. There's no reason to hide any part of our history. If we don't teach our kids about our history, then we're doomed to repeat the mistakes of the past. Furthermore, I just lost the thread there for a second. Give me a second. Our teachers are also under attack. So Senate Bill 256, I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. This bill attacked public sector unions, and it was specifically aimed at the teachers. Teachers are the most populous union. They're also one of the most wealthy. They also have them, like I said, they have the most people. So they're one of the staunchest allies your kids have when in the classroom. So what this bill did was it made it more difficult for teachers' unions to organize. Every year, they have to recertify. What that means is they have to go to every teacher in the district, ask them, do you still want to be part of the union? The answer is yes, they have to get a card. They have to get 60% of every single teacher in the union, in the district, excuse me, to sign that card. They do that every year. At one point, there was a requirement that the unions had to have a full financial audit every year, which is, if you've ever done an audit, that's an incredible expense, thousands of dollars. So what that did is the smaller unions are now defunct. Hillsborough County, Polk County, those are big unions. They're strong unions. Actually, their membership went up. They're doing better now than they were before. But the service workers at USF, they lost their union. July 1st of 2 years ago, completely went away. So we have workers that no longer have representation that want a union. This was aimed at working class people, to disenfranchise working class people, take away the power to organize, which I'll remind you is enshrined in our state's constitution. The ability to have a union is enshrined in the first article of the Florida State Constitution. So Senate Bill 256 is a terrible piece of legislation. There was a worse one, in my opinion, that came out this past cycle from Jay Collins. Senate Bill 918, is anybody familiar with this bill? What this would have done is roll back the child labor safety protections we have in this state. It would have taken them to the federal minimum, which means it would have removed restrictions around 14-year-olds and their working conditions, 15-year-olds and how many hours per week they can work. So if your 15-year-old child is working, I won't name a company, but they're working. Boss comes to them and says, I need you to work late tonight. Kid says, I've got school in the morning, I've got a test, I got to go home, I got to get sleep. The employer could have fired them over that. The parent came to the employer and said, I don't want my kid working to 10 o'clock at night on a Wednesday night. They need to be arrested for school tomorrow. It doesn't matter. So this bill thankfully did not pass, but this was the type of representation we had in Senate District 14. This all ties back to this idea of home rule. It used to be a Republican talking point that the government closest to the people serves the people best. And what we've seen in the state of Florida is the governor and the legislature that enables him take away the ability of our local governments to actually govern. They like to preempt local ordinances. In the city of St. Petersburg and here in the city of Tampa, we had an apprenticeship ordinance. This apprenticeship ordinance would have required these contractors to have 15% of the hours worked on a project worth more than $1 million worked by registered apprentices. So IBW apprentices, ABC apprentices, iron worker apprentices. The ABC is the Associated Builders and Contractors Union. That's our non-union counterparts. They have registered apprenticeship programs. They sued the city of St. Petersburg over their registered apprenticeship ordinance and said that the city cannot mandate what they call the conditions of employment. They can't tell a contractor what they have to do. The city initially prevailed. They appealed it, as they are wont to do. During that time, there was a bill, and I forget the number, that came out from the legislature that basically said, cities and counties, you can't tell contractors what to do, who they have to hire, when they have to hire them, and how many you have to hire. So on the appeal, the city lost, and the right to control the conditions of employment reverted back to the state. What this also touched on were ordinances around local hiring and disadvantaged citizens. Down in Miami, they had an ordinance that touched on heat stress and heat stroke. Anybody work outside? No? I'll tell you, it sucks working outside in the August heat. And down in Miami, they passed an ordinance that said when it gets hot enough, you have to provide shade. The hotter it gets, you have to provide more breaks, cool water, all to protect workers. The state struck that down. They said, you can't do that. That's an undue burden on employers. So this idea of the government closest to the people, best serves the people, is not what they believe in Tallahassee anymore. It's what the governor wants, and the people have to deal with it. So I'm asking you to help me. Send me to Tallahassee. If you live in Senate District 14, I would love to have you. I would love your vote. I would love your money, because elections are expensive. Volunteer hours, any of it. But most importantly, like Angela was talking about, get registered to vote. there is a Democratic voter deficit in Hillsborough County. And not being registered to vote by mail disproportionately affects Democrats because we like to take our time, look at the issues, look at the candidates, who best fits our ideals, who best will serve us. So make sure your family is registered to vote. Make sure you're registered to vote. Check your status on vote by mail. It's very easy to do. Go to the supervisor of elections. You can do it online. If you want to get involved, and I need everybody's help, you can go to brian4fl.com. That's Brian, FORFL.com. You can sign up, you can donate, you can follow me, see where I'm going to be. Believe me, I'm going to be everywhere because my campaign manager, Nick, is keeping me busy. But if you guys have any questions, I'd love to take them. He's inspecting his wrist. Oh,
Yeah, I was wondering, I know a lot of.
Yeah.
Don't know. And a lot of people don't know why. How do you explain? that?
so I have to put into terms that people understand these days because unions, especially in the South, especially in Florida, aren't as prevalent as they once were, or as they are up north. So we are your HR department. The HR department of your employer works for them. So if there's an issue, they're going to side with the employer. When you have a union, we negotiate a contract, we negotiate wages, we negotiate the conditions of your employment, what breaks look like. For me, what's on the tool list? I don't have to bring battery powered tools. I only have to bring hand tools. All of that's covered by the contract. So when there is a dispute, when you feel unjustly persecuted by your employer, you think you're unjustly fired, whatever the case may be, that's what we're here for. An HR department is expensive for a reason because there's a lot of liability with that. We take that on. We represent you. We negotiate that contract. When there's a problem, we have the lawyers. Lawyers are expensive. We can go to arbitration. We have chased employers through the federal court system for years to pay our members what they're owed when employers have refused to pay. I have 2 members that I can think of. They get a check every month to the tune of about $1,800. And they'll probably get it for 2 more years because there was an employer that violated the contract, and I won't get into the weeds about that, but he also didn't pay them what they were owed. They were found guilty through the labor courts, and they get a check every month. The union gets a check every month. And this was a contractor that said he would never pay the union another red cent. But we did our due diligence, we followed them, we showed how they violated the contract, and we got them what they were owed, and then some. Yeah. Please jump in. Yeah. Where do you work? Yeah, the thing to realize is you're not alone. That you have, I guess I'll equate it to military. You have a unit. You have people around you that are in the same boat. You guys are all working towards the same thing, and you have a support system. Without a union, it's just you and the employer. When you have a union to back you up. So where do you work? I'm just curious. The airlines? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, yes, you do. Any,
Yeah.
sir.
Thank you for showing up and speaking Black Hawk. With the political environment where it is being what it is,
There's a lot of discussion that sometimes is blatant, sometimes it's not so blatant, that impacts race and impacts the idea of, even when you talk about education and taking away books that have taught certain history, specifically the African American community's history, the Black community history. As an elected official, what role do you think a person as an elected official can play in stopping some of that language that is challenging culture or challenging the idea of the relevance of culture and the relevance of history, specifically the history that's being taken out of school?
Well, first, I mean, any bill that would come forth that has language like you're talking about, that would be a hard no for me. American history, I don't have to tell you folks this, but American history isn't the pretty picture they like to paint for us up in Tallahassee. And there's no reason to ignore it. There is no reason to run from it. We have to teach all of it. So anything that comes forth that would whitewash our history, I would vote against, and I would advocate against that. I would ask you to come educate me if I'm missing something. My lived experience is different than all of yours. If I'm missing something, please let me know. I'm there to serve the constituents, and their problems become my problems. Their issues become my issues. So again, like I said, that kind of legislation comes forward. It's a hard no. I'd push against it as much as I can, for as long as I can. And at the end of the day, vote no. Okay, that got a lot of hands up. Ma'am? Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I think it's possible. And there is a wage issue.
Mm-hmm.
But I think when you're having discussions, Black folks,
Mhm.
into but talk about the wage potential. And
Okay. Yeah. I can address some of that right now if you'd like. So I came in through a pre-apprenticeship program, and they still do it. It's the format has changed slightly, but overall, the way it was designed was the IBW recognized we had, to put it simply, an old white guy problem. They wanted to get women, minorities, and veterans into the union, into the trades. So this pre-apprenticeship program, and they do it about once a year. That's who they're looking for. You bypass the entrance process. So if you qualify, you have a DD 214, you're a minority, you're a woman, you go in through this pre-apprenticeship, and it satisfies those requirements, but in a different way. And we've had great success with that. So the makeup of our union has changed significantly. When I joined, I want to say there were 10 women in the entire active members, not retired, just active members. We're closing in on 60 now. That's only been about 10 years. We have an active women's committee. We have an active electrical worker minority caucus. We sponsor the food pantry over James Elementary right around the corner. So we've started reaching out to the community. We've started getting more involved, getting out of our little bubble. But to the wage point you talked about, our wages are set in black and white. That was a bad pun, but it's written in the contract exactly what our wages are. It's written in the contract exactly what our raises are going to be. So we just negotiated our most recent contract. Starting in December, we will get a 4.75% raise. Next year, it'll be 4.5%. Year after that, 4.5%. That's total package. That includes health insurance and retirement and everything together, but still, it's pretty significant. Like I said, our wages are determined. Our health insurance is paid for by the employer. So if you go to work 40 hours a week, every week, not missing too much time, you keep your health insurance because it's funded by the hours you work. If you want to get into the particulars, our deductible is $350 per person, which you can get refunded if you get your annual physical. So it effectively costs you nothing to go to the doctor beyond your copay. That is the type of stability the union can offer. You have health insurance that's fully funded. Our apprenticeship is free because it is funded through funding programs with the county, the school district. So you can get this education in 4 years. You can be a journeyman wireman, go take your county license test, and it doesn't cost you anything out of pocket beyond your initial set of tools. Did I cover everything? Okay. Yes, ma'am. 18, you have to have graduated high school. There is normally through the process, you apply online, you have to submit your high school transcripts. You have to have passed high school algebra 1. That's the only real requirement there. And then there's an interview and an aptitude test. And the aptitude test is just basic reading and writing skills, some basic math skills. Mm-hmm. So our apprenticeship director is actually really good about that. He goes to all the high school fairs around here because there's like a season of them. He goes to all of those. We actually have one of our instructors teaches the first year curriculum over in Plant City High School. So you go into this program as a junior, you finish it as a senior, you come out of that program having finished our first year curriculum. You go straight in as a second year apprentice. We're trying to replicate that in some other places. It's a pretty big lift, so it's going to take a little while. But in the meantime, what we do is we kind of have career days at the apprenticeship hall. So we organize with the VOTEC schools and different high schools around the district. We bus the students into our apprenticeship program, and they spend a day there kind of getting a taste of what it's like to be an apprentice. You know, they bend some conduit, they pull some wire, they play with all the cool tools. They spend all day there. They feed them, show them what it's like to be an apprentice. They talk to them about, you know, the benefits and the wages you can expect. And we do that. I know Robinson, and I'm going to forget the rest, but there's 4 high schools, I think, that come in. Spend the day there learning about the trade, learning about the union. It's all more hands. What?
Was the realization that those are not guaranteed for them.
Mhm.
And the first realization that it doesn't matter what Democrats do in state capitals, but there has to be more in terms of not just doing something, but making sure workers know that it's done. Protect the ability to
Mhm.
I want to take a step above
Okay.
and get more issue of. I want your take on kind of why are workers turning towards their bosses, turning towards men, turning towards the wealth instead of each other. How is that's the root of lack of you, right? They're turning to wealth, they're turning to the wealthy, they're turning to the Trumps and all them instead of turning towards each other. And so how do we address that, both politically, so
I mean, do you want me to write a thesis? Because that's what you just asked me. Wow, okay. I'll try to answer all this as succinctly as I can. Why are unions basically turning away from Democrats and the unions? Why are union members leaving? Union members have largely, so we're talking about some deep history here. So the unions have always kind of preached, Democrats have our back. We need to vote Democrat no matter what, blue no matter who. That hasn't always been the case in terms of the follow through on the Democratic side. And workers have seen that. It's really started after NAFTA. That we saw the offshoring of jobs, and people were wondering, like, if Democrats, our allies, are offshoring jobs, why are we going to keep voting for them? And it's been a slow degradation. So I guess maybe there's been a little undermining of trust between members in the union hall, that if union hall's preaching blue no matter who, and we see what Democrats are doing to undermine unions, there's a disconnect there. And I think that's where it started. The way we can fix that is having legislators that actually support unions no matter what, kind of flip that on its head, that understand the power and the value of organized labor, that we have, if nothing else, we have people and people power, that union members are high propensity voters. If you want their vote, you're going to have to perform. That is something that I know my apprenticeship got beat into my head. I don't know if you went through an apprenticeship, but I'm sure you saw it as well, that they're only going to keep you around if you can actually perform. You need to be able to do the job. We have legislators that, as far as supporting the unions, haven't been doing that. And I think that's the bridge that the Democratic Party needs to build, because right or wrong, whatever the Republicans were telling union members, that's what they wanted to hear, whether or not they followed through with it. I think you're going to start seeing union members waking up to that now, that you have the undermining of the National Labor Relations Board at the federal level. You have the dissolution of 40 plus unions for federal employees. It's going to take a little while, but I think you're going to start seeing that, yeah, the Democrats may not have been great for unions, but the Republican Party sure as hell isn't good either. It's why they're turning away from the unions. I don't know that they necessarily are. I think they've turned away from the Democratic Party because, like I said, they've been preached to for years that Republicans aren't going to support you, Democrats will, and it didn't play out that way. So there's a deep sense of dissatisfaction with Democrats, but also the political system as a whole. So I did orientation for our new members today, and we got derailed almost immediately because one of these apprentices, he's in boot camp. He hasn't even officially started his apprenticeship yet. Asked me, why is the IBW involved with politics? And we had to explain to him that the funding for your books that you don't have to pay for, that's because of politics. The National Labor Relations Act that enables you to have a union and sets up the ground rules for how a union works, that's because of politics. So we have to engage in some political education on our side as to why politics matter and your choices matter. The Democratic Party has to do some outreach and really and truly support unions. Over the years, we've seen a lot of performative action with little substance. I hope I answered your question as well as, okay. Senate District 14 or my union's district? Okay. District 14 is roughly west of 275 to the county line with Pinellas, north to Pasco. It also covers South Tampa, but not downtown Tampa, and just north of the university area. Michael, was your hand up? Mhm.
Now it's so anyway, so when they did it in 2022, she won by them 20,000 votes. She won in the second vote. She what are you going to do to bring back our Hispanic vote, which we lost at county level? And in the big part of the district.
I'm going to do what the IBW trained me to do. I am going to organize, knock doors, phone call. I lived in Janet Cruz's district, both as a representative and as a senator. Love Janet. My strategy is to actually get out and talk to people. And that is the only way this election, and really any election, can be won, is getting out and actually talking to voters. You can spend all you want on digital ads, on texts, on phone calls, but it is door knocking and having real conversations with real people that wins elections. It is hot work. It is long hours. It is sometimes thankless work, but that is the only way this election can be won. Thank you. Thank you.
Bridge that gap between our community and your apprenticeship program. Well, we always invite all candidates to come and speak. Tell us where they're running, why we should vote for them, and we have a candidate here this evening. Will you please welcome Mr. McCauley? Okay, thanks for coming. Make sure you, yep, you can see yourself.
Gotcha. Hello, everybody here in person. Hello, everybody on Zoom. My name is Colonel Dr. Darren McCauley. I am a pain management physician. I'm currently the state air surgeon for Florida, the highest ranking physician in the Florida Air National Guard. And I am running to unseat Congresswoman Laurel Lee in the 15th district here in Florida. Thank you. I usually get that response. People are either, who is that? Or they're elated. And the people who, elated that I'm running against her. And the people who do remember her name often remember that when the storms were coming to Tampa Bay last year, she voted to defund FEMA when the storms were coming right towards us, right? So she's more loyal to her party than she is to the people who actually put her in office. And that is one of the principal examples of the type of representative that I do not want to be. I was always told that you learn from professors and teachers who teach you what you want to aspire to, but you can learn just as much from people who teach you what you don't want to aspire to and what you don't want to wind up being. My journey with service began when I joined the Air National Guard at 24 years old. I joined the military primarily because I wanted to be a part of America's success. I wanted to be a part of something bigger than myself, as folks say, but I and my family saw my grandfather and my uncles examples before me of people who had actually joined the military and been a part of something bigger than themselves, with my uncles being in Vietnam and my grandfather being in World War II. So I joined as a medical student, my third year medical student, and decided at my third year of medical school and decided that I was going to go out into the world, I was going to see the world, and I was going to make America fruitful. I also wanted to get some of the benefits that we just heard about from Mr. Nathan, not necessarily from a union, but I wanted a VA home loan. I wanted college education funding. I wanted a little change in my pocket. And I find myself 25 years later, now as a full colonel, looking at the rest of my community who doesn't have all of those benefits, who are unable to afford to buy a home, who are going to work and not getting a wage that they feel is going to help them take care of their family, who are unable to pay off their student loans. And those pressures are in large part why I've decided to run for office. Over the course of 25 years in the military, I've had the opportunity to go on multiple deployments. I've been to Iraq twice, been to Syria, been to Turkey. Here in the homeland, deployed for COVID as a task force surgeon to set up mobile testing facilities so that we could track the pandemic, go into nursing homes, and take care of residents during staffing shortages, really put myself out there in order to help my community. And that was in large part why I joined the National Guard in particular. We've seen in the news recently, unfortunately, that the National Guard is supposed to be tasked with helping people here at home. I wanted to not just help America abroad, but help folks here, which is why I joined the Guard. I had the opportunity of a lifetime to help my community last year when both of those storms came to Tampa Bay. As the state air surgeon for a state that was going to be hit with what started off as Category 4 and then downgraded to Category 3 storms, I was able to set up hospital evacuation plans, make sure that medical resources and personnel got where they needed to go and where they needed to be. So over the course of 25 years, my life of service started with the military, but I see in our political life and somewhat seeping into our community now, a need to serve again. We have leadership in Washington, leadership in Tallahassee that want to divide people, want to chop us up and make us fight with one another so that we're not paying attention to them stealing behind our backs. And that's what a lot of this is. I've wrestled with the idea, why do people put forth policies that they know are going to be bad for their constituents? Why would Laurel Lee vote to defund FEMA when there's a hurricane coming to her neighborhood? Why is one of the major political parties in the United States of America shutting down the government because they'd rather have no government than have a government that subsidizes healthcare for millions of Americans? And the through line is that those representatives are being paid to do that. They are siding with corporations, they are siding with special interests, and they are not siding with the people of Central Florida, with the people of the United States of America. My platform for Congress is relatively simple. I want to make Florida affordable. I want to make it so that people who live here and who work here, whether it's in tourism, in construction, or in healthcare, one of our biggest industries, can actually take care of their families. I plan on doing that by standing up to insurance companies, making it clear that we're no longer going to be gouged. We pay 3 to 4 times the national average in terms of rates for homeowners insurance, car insurance, every type of insurance. The first thing people tell me when they move here to Florida is, why do my insurance rates go up so high, right? We think that that is because we've been sold a lie that it's weather. It's our hurricanes. Hurricanes are coming. So because of hurricanes, a hurricane season, we have to pay more for homeowners insurance or for car insurance. But what about health insurance? What about dental insurance? Why are we paying more for every type of insurance? Why does the insurance company have a stranglehold on Central Florida, on Florida as a whole, with Central Florida and South Florida being hit the hardest? It's because the insurance companies are paying our representatives. Laurel Lee has taken over $230,000 from insurance companies and from their lobbyists. And that's why she turns a blind eye, not trying to do anything to advocate for the people. That's why she hides behind, this is a state issue. Tallahassee has to deal with it. There's nothing that a federal representative can do, when a federal representative can always lift their voice and use their bully pulpit to advocate for their constituents, no matter what the problem is. We've heard about Florida Power and Light raising our rates to the highest in the nation. Their CEO had the nerve to have an open forum where he made it clear that he feels that Florida Power and Light deserves to have the highest rate in the nation because their shareholders deserve to get paid. As if people in Central Florida don't deserve electricity and air conditioning. We see that Laurel Lee has paid over $130,000 to Florida Power and Light. I find it hard to believe that those campaign contributions to Laurel Lee are not in large part why she's been silent and once again not advocating for the people. I also want to protect Medicare and Medicaid. I mentioned that I'm a physician, state air surgeon. As a physician, I find it abhorrent that we would cut off healthcare from our poorest, from our oldest. But I also understand, just as a Floridian, that Medicaid is the backbone of our hospital system. So cutting off Medicaid is everyone's problem, whether you have Medicaid or not. If there's a car accident, if you get sick, if you have some kind of unfortunate luck where you need to go to the emergency room, you want to know that that emergency room is going to be there. If you're sick enough that you need to be admitted or go to the ICU, you want to know that that hospital has the funds to support that. And if we cut off 25% of the life's blood of our hospital system, we put it into a position where it could collapse. We see healthcare in the news right now because the ACA subsidies are currently being fought over, and that's the crux of what's causing our government shutdown. Did you know that the average Floridian, average person in District 15, not just the average Floridian, stands to have their insurance rates, their premiums go up by $25,000 a year? Why would our representative be in Congress fighting to take $2,000 plus a month out of your pocket? Because she's more loyal to her party than she is to you. Because she's more afraid of Donald Trump than she is of you. But we are going to make her afraid of the people again come next November. Thank you. Lastly, I told you it was simple, three-pronged attack, okay? Insurance companies and utilities, healthcare, and making sure that our tax dollars go towards services for us. I talked about going towards the storms last year when the hurricanes came to Tampa Bay. We've had $1 billion worth of FEMA cuts in this country. $1 billion, that's basically a tax. If you cut money from FEMA and you make sure that the federal government is not going to help people prepare, the federal government's not going to clean up afterwards, the federal government is not going to give folks money and actually run a part of the insurance program that is water and flood insurance through FEMA, then citizens have to do that. You and I have to pay for that. We have to pay for medical costs. We have to pay for sandbags to get our houses together. We have to actually pay to rebuild our homes. My house was wiped out by the storms last year. I had 6 inches of water in my house. I've heard it, the saying that we had to take it down to the studs. I never knew what that meant until they took my house down to the studs. I walked into the living room and could see all the way back to the kitchen. Took us a year to rebuild the house, a year of still fighting with insurance companies about whether or not the flood in my home came from a big hole in the roof or from the sea itself. And they've used that distinction to stop paying for a year, hoping that I would just give up and go away, hoping I wouldn't be able to mount a financial response and rebuild my house. Many of my neighbors had to sell their homes just for the cost of property. They lost all the equity in their property, everything that they were going to pass on to their children. Why are we allowing these insurance companies to take advantage of us? Why are we allowing our representatives to turn their backs and not just not advocate for us, but actually cut the funding that was in place by the federal government to help us during a disaster? The through line between those things is our representatives not representing us. But if you take a step back from our representatives not representing us, you see a corruption of values in the United States that allows that to happen. I had someone ask me Tuesday, giving a speech, what are you going to do in the future? Who knows what the future is going to hold? 3 months from now, 6 months, or 6 months ago, 3 months ago, I never thought that I would be seeing masked men with rifles abducting people off the streets. As somebody who's been in the National Guard for 25 years, I never thought that I would have to worry about being deployed to a US city to stand up against my own countrymen because there's no emergency going on, but the president wants to act like one is happening. I never thought I'd see representatives in Congress and in the Senate argue over whether or not working class people need to have health care, or whether or not pregnant women should be able to go to the hospital and give birth. So I don't know exactly what the crises will be in the future. I don't know exactly what they'll be by November 2026. But I know that if we stand true to our values in Florida, if we really want to take care of our families, if we really want to take care of each other, take care of our communities, and if we put it out there and mean it when we say it, that I can't be bought. I can't be bought like Laurel Lee or like the Republican Party wants their representatives to be, then I'll always be in a place to be able to represent the people. I need you to help me do that. You can go to darrenforflorida.com. That's D-A-R-R-E-N. There's a lot of ways to spell Darren, but we spell it the right way. 2 R's, E-N, F-O-R, Florida.com. If you live in District 15, whether that's Temple Terrace, Plant City, the western portion of Lakeland, all the way up to Zephyr Hills and Lutz, I need your vote and I need your support. But everywhere else in the state, in the nation, I need your support and I need your donation. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, both here in person and online. Thank you so much for your time.
I'm sure everybody's just relocated.
Well,
So I know, I come from the- and I know, my question to you, I know you meant to say. Voting for these people. It's just like, it's like common sense. This is for who revokes FEMA when people houses are moved down.
It's- I can tell you what I interpret it to be, but since I don't vote that way, I can't tell you exactly why. It's the forked tongue, man. That is the most dangerous weapon that Satan ever used. It wasn't a bomb, it wasn't a gun, it wasn't a knife. It was a mouthful of lies and rot. I started off saying that they want to divide us. They want to make us think that, oh, well, we're just taking immigrants, so it's not your problem. Oh, we're just banning books on Black history, so you folks don't have to worry about that. We're just stopping people from getting Medicaid, but you're not on Medicaid, so that's not your issue. We need to actually recognize that when they take away your neighbor's rights, when they take money out of your neighbor's pocket, it's practice for taking yours. That's all they're doing. So if they divide folks up and get you to not pay attention to what's actually happening, then they can conquer. This is divide and conquer. But I personally, and like I said, I have not made one of those votes, but personally, I think it's just a lies. It's a mouthful of rot. We see with the Medicaid cuts, we know that it is already illegal. There are already federal laws on the books that would stop undocumented immigrants from using federal dollars for healthcare, whether that is, Medicaid, Medicare. You can't even sign up if you don't have a social security number, okay? But we see Republican representatives, Republican senators sitting out there right on TV with a camera in their face lying about it, saying that that's why they want to slash Medicaid, when they know full well that undocumented immigrants can't use Medicaid, but they want to slash Medicaid so that they can give Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos and all of the other billionaire donors huge tax giveaways. They can't stand up and say that on camera, so instead they'll tell a lie. And unfortunately, the Democratic Party has not done a good enough job of messaging, this is a bold-faced lie. This is the truth, this is the lie. We need you to go the right way, not the wrong way. And in that vacuum, people just go along with it. They are tricked. It's tricknology.
we got a couple.
You see things, it's seeing is belief.
Go ahead, my friend. They shouldn't be. I don't know why. Once again, I can't claim to know, right? Because you just said it's a job that says they'll accept convicted felons. But I have thought for years, okay? And this is, once again, you find this kind of mantra of the Republican Party where they want to punish people instead of allow people to improve themselves. If you go to jail, you get convicted, you go to jail, that is your debt to society. If we punish people forever and ever, and we don't allow them to reintegrate into society, all you're doing is setting them up to go back because the money won't make itself.
Thank you, Dave.
The union has issued.
But we have a lot of people with prior records. But a lot of times it's the employer that, especially where we work in the central area, they have security requirements. So we can work around. But employers that As far as joining the union, that's not.
But it's okay to be able to ask that question, say to your elected officials, I need you to make a concerted effort at your level or at the local level to advertise the jobs I can get. And to make sure that there's partnership being formed so that I can be communicated with. And if I have a transitional program I'm in, I need that, the information getting to me to be accurate.
And give examples. That's what constituent services is for. If you have an example of where you've been wronged and somebody said they were gonna do X and instead they did Y and Z, you gotta let us know and bring that to us.
We would love to put one to it. Yep. So we can find out where they, exist on any list, because there may be some list publicized to them as someone you can call, and if you can't call them and count on them, we need to take them off.
You know, some people still like trying to change from the past, and some people keep you stuck.
We need to disconnect you from them people, get you connected to people, pay you, give you a chance. There's one thing I know, this country, you do something really well, there's somebody who wants your service. You gotta find out.
True that.
We got one more hand.
Civic office that deals with. The board member, he's based out of Nelson, that's his. Very sensitive. But there is an office there that they work. It's how it's supposed to be.
Can you all hear what's going on?
That microphone is really for the podium, it's not picking up.
Okay.
So
Okay.
just let me know.
Uh,
Summarize.
We have one more hand. in the
One
back.
more hand in the
So we
back.
can Summarize that, yeah, one more hand in the back.
They all got back.
Thing that was said about like why are people voting for people who want to take away FEMA funding and things like that. But Republicans are very good at making people feel like they're better than someone else. And of course, Black Caucus, I can say, Black folks are often the people that they feel like they're better than. And so Republicans set up these hierarchies and make people feel like they're part of something bigger, part of this American project. It's often based on whitewash history, false sense of nostalgia, et cetera, et cetera. So that's one way that Republicans work, and it's a good way to, you know, steal from people by making them feel good and make them feel like they're part of something bigger. The challenge the Democrats have is to make people feel like they're part of a whole, part of a collective American project, where the goal is for everyone to get ahead instead of I'm going to get ahead by stepping on somebody else. Or I'm not going to get ahead, but I'll feel better because somebody else is beneath me. And so that's a big challenge for Democrats. And it gets to my question. I realized that I'm a New Tampa resident, so I'm in your district. And I realized that I met one of your opponents at an event that I participated in. It was a panel last month held by Muslim Women Who Care. So organization was talking about a panel on free speech. And I mean, our district is extremely diverse.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I canvass in my neighborhood in Tampa, and I'm knocking on doors. We got a lot of people who come from all over. Some people who are engaged voters, some people who have not been engaged yet. And so it's very ripe for people to come in. It's an affluent area. It's very diverse, and I just don't think the Democratic Party is tapped in. I think there's a lot of people who may be Democrats by default, but they're not necessarily going to show up or check your name as opposed to someone else's without motivation. So, kind of what's your strategy? Obviously, you're knocking on doors, canvassing, not get your name out, but like, what's it like a deeper strategy for getting people to vote for you in the primary and stay voting Democrat to take out Lord?
Hello? All right, you can hear me. So my strategy specifically, to energize Democratic voters is to let them know that this is possible. You know, I think for too long, we have been sold that this is a Republican district, this is a Republican area. There's nothing that Democrats can do. You guys just have to lay down and take it. And, you know, no amount of organizing, no amount of calling, no amount of raising money is going to do anything, right? And to a certain extent, they use the red wave that we suffered through the last election to drive that point home. See, you guys couldn't even mount a response when Harris was on the ticket. And that is not true. Like you said, it is a truly diverse district. 50% of the district is college educated, 50% of the district is non-college educated, 50% white, 25% Hispanic, 15% Southeast Asian, and 10% Black. You have all of the experiences that epidemiology would lend to a given area, right? So that people can say, all right, well, you know, regardless of who you are and what you bring to the table, somebody's got to actually reach out to you and let you know that they care about your vote. That's my personal plan, but that starts with letting people know that this is something that we can actually do. You have to not reach out to them and say, hey, I want you to come vote for me, you know, just to say that you did it. You have to make it clear to them that we can win if we're all in this together. And I think, you know, we talked about the Republican Party trying to divide people up. I like what you said. I mean, it was eloquent. Maybe I might use that next time someone asks me the question, okay? Where they do a very good job of not just dividing us up, but dividing us up so that people feel like I'm elevated in status as opposed to this other person. And the opposite is making everybody know that we are all in this together, that we can actually turn our country around, that we don't have to look on the news and say every day something is a little bit crazier and a little bit more awry than it was the day before. But it starts by giving people hope that this is possible. Once again, not feeding into that lie. This is a R+5 district. That's a fancy pundit way of saying that only 5% more Republicans voted in the last election than the national average. Only 5%. So if only 5% more voted in a district that is a third Republican, a third independent, and a third Democratic, we can win this. And getting that across to people, letting them know that I can win it, but I can only win it with their vote. I need them to come out and do it. Is part of my plan to inspire them to do that. As far as, oh, sorry, I'll answer it.
What do you think about this candidate?
Thank you.
Woo! Well, I want to tell you that there's two candidates in the room. The best way to get started, if you want to get mobilized, you're ready to get started, join a campaign. People tend to vote for people that they see other people are passionate for. All right, so if they see you out there knocking the door or on the phone, hey, they might vote for your guy. Just wanted to let you know that these cuts to Medicare and the Affordable Care Act are going to hit Florida hard. About 2 million people are going to lose their status as far as health insurance goes. I work in the health insurance business as a health and life insurance agent. If you know someone who needs help with Medicare or Medicaid, please let me know. Also, Hillsborough County has a Hillsborough County healthcare plan. I sit on that board. There's going to be a lot of people scrambling around. Please think about the Hillsborough County healthcare plan for you and your friends and your relatives. If you need assistance with that, also you can call me, same number that's on my card. It's hard for us to get to everybody, okay? Please become a member of the Hillsborough County Democratic Black Caucus by going to our website, use cards on the table, and becoming a member. For students, if they need community service hours, we will do that for them. So they can come next weekend and they can get their community service hours by joining our phone bank. And we also invite candidates to come and make calls, okay? And learn how to phone bank, learn how to talk to the people on the phone. It's very, very important when they hear from a candidate. All right, well, First Vice President, did you have anything you wanted to say? And he's gonna make it quick.
All right.
Go.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate you all being here. Obviously, you're listening to the candidates. When the candidates are talking to you, they're telling you, we want your vote, but they're also saying that they want your support financially. Let's be realistic. In order to reach a county this large, they need your support financially, and so do we as a Democratic Black Caucus. For some of you who can stay after, I want to talk to you about our next fundraiser. We're planning our own gala that will take place in 2026. At that time, we want to do two things. We want to fundraise, but we want to also begin to help with our own messaging within the Democratic Black Caucus. One of the things I like about both candidates here is that they had the opportunity to speak in plain language. It wasn't lofty language. They didn't try to appeal to someone's heartstring based on some nomenclature that speaks to this particular gender or this particular ideal. It wasn't this idea of who we are within the Democratic Party known as the Big Tent. It was the plain language that we as Democrats have to be able to articulate to not just appeal to Democrats, but to appeal to anybody who wants a real candidate who's going to make a difference. And I like when I see Democrats being able to speak to everybody at the same time. But at the same time, I do want to celebrate the fact that I did hear them suggest and make mention that they are sensitive to all the different people who fall under the Big Tent. In order to accomplish that complicated message within the party, recognizing all the identities that find a home in the Democratic Party when the rest of America sometimes under other parties seem like they want to throw everybody away, in order to communicate that message, but at the same time speak plain message about policy, plain message about who we are at the local level and what we need to be at the state level. In order to do that, you have to have funds to get all those messages out, especially in a time in which we have to deal with disinformation, misinformation that's coming out. So to support these candidates, make sure you get involved with their campaign. We want you to get involved with our fundraisers as well. Okay, all right. We also have barbershop initiatives that I'm doing, but I can't really get into that because that's a nonpartisan initiative that we're dealing with. All right, well, I'll save it for the next one. I'll save it for the next one. Thank you very much. Yeah.
All right, thanks so much for coming. If you want to become a member tonight, we can handle that right through your phone. All right, till next time, and I hope to see you on Saturday at the phone bank, the 18th.
Thank you.
All right.
We're discussing now. We'll
Yeah.
Good job, sir. Randy, John and Randy.
Okay.
I mentioned that you guys were there with the state.
No.
Well, and you remember when I do, here and then.
This would be Hillary, but I believe it gives. Which you.
And we have to. We have to do that. I wanna make sure.
Okay.
I want us to get across our T's and dot our I's.
Well, once you do it, our secretary.
Okay.
We can put you on. When you get the update.
Okay.
You get the meeting notification.
So, if I was teaching,
You don't. Yeah.
Okay, I understand.
First.
Okay. I got it.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you're looking
Always out there, doing the eight. I got some.
I was telling you, I'm going to see you again. Think about the ordinary care for health. It's what you know.
From your round. Oh, I appreciate it.
I worked at 85 Shandy Tucker Road, right at different highway. Different highway and Shandy Tucker Road.
Oh.
Okay, I was working at that's small, the that was here. I know the tradition down here, and I'm saying here. You might wanna pick up what bottles or what, we all man and.
Okay.
Yeah, what, WSBO. Yeah, I love it, but I know. That's good, you be fine. Let's talk about it. Now we go to here, we'll call it,
Okay.
I'll live in water.
Oh, yeah. I'm in the new sense. It's not your.
Yeah. Right? I'm in between 41 and 50. They just built. That's why I feel it. Yeah.
I'll bring them back. Okay. I'll So he seems like a very nice guy. You have a really good opportunity. Well, the reason why he's gonna be hot. You, my friend, thank you so much for having me.
All right.
Really appreciate you.